Now, it is a issue whenever a president, I don't care Democratic or Republican, makes a conscious effort, spends hundreds of thousands of dollars, gets lawyers, sends out their press secretaries on an attack job just so that they can stonewall and refuse to release documents about their past to the public. Now, that should offend all Americans. And it is an issue because it creates a vulnerability that the president can be lying. And I don't care if the president is Republican or Democrat or who the president is. I've investigated both in Republicans and Democrats. And to me, the issue with Barack Obama is that if he's telling the truth, let's see the long-form birth certificate. And I'm going to assume he's telling the truth, and that document's going to affirm that he was born in Capilano Hospital, just like he said he is now. And his sister was wrong when she said he was born in Queens Hospital in Hawaii. And Snopes.com and the UPI and all the other websites that scrubbed after we released the two hospitals that his family and the campaign had said he was born in, they scrubbed Queens and substituted Capilani. They don't have to explain to us why they were wrong in the first place. And this family doesn't have to tell us why they couldn't figure out where Barack Obama, they couldn't remember. You know, it was confusing. A lot of hospitals, it's hard to remember. Look, Jack, I remember the hospital. I was told since I was a kid what hospital I was born in.
Me too.
And the idea that you can't remember the hospital, you've got two different hospitals, and neither hospital will validate that it's true. I mean, this is...
Well, and then the other issue here, there's so many issues. We've covered most of this, but getting your response to this as well, Jerry. His half-sister, admittedly born in Indonesia, has a cold document from Hawaii, too. I don't know why Chris Matthews isn't talking about, well, I do know why. What I don't know is, why aren't you on? If they're so open about this, and if we're just such insane nut right-wing extremists or whatever, why doesn't he just have you on his show to debate it, or Mr. Berg or somebody? I mean, what are they afraid of?
Well, you would think, Jack, that the easiest way, instead of calling us names, just put an end to the entire controversy. The White House could do it tomorrow or today. President Obama comes in and says, you have wanted to see my long-form birth certificate, the original. Here it is. It's just exactly like I always said. Now, why won't the president do that?
And it's not just the birth; it's all the documents. We want to see. We want to see all his documentation. We want to know who this guy is. I'd like to start a campaign to have you or Mr. Phil Berg or maybe both of you go on the Chris Matthews show, who seems to really be taking offense to this, and have an honest debate about it. We never debate anything in this country. We're just told what to think. But if they're not afraid of anything, why can't they do it? And I think maybe if we had thousands and thousands and thousands of people that's probably his entire audience, taking Chris Matthews.
You just exhausted all the people who watch him. And look, the issue, too, when Chris Matthews comes on and says, President Obama posted his birth certificate on the website. When he did not. President Obama posted the certificate of live birth, the short form. And somebody ought to explain to Chris Matthews the difference. And the Chris Matthews, if he doesn't understand, is either dramatically uninformed or intentionally misrepresenting the truth.
He feels a tingle up his leg when you talk about Obama.
That's the problem. It's an ideological agenda.
Yeah.
And Chris Matthews, as he did when Mr. Liddy was on the show, he berates him. He acts like a third-degree quack prosecutor and starts...
What happened to Liddy on that show?
Documents Mr. Liddy can't see.
What happened? Did he have too much cough syrup? What happened to Liddy on that show? He looked asleep.
Sitting there, and Matthews is saying, well, look at the document. And to Mr. Liddy saying, I can't see the document. So it's on the monitor. Mr. Liddy says, I can't see the monitor. Well, you're at such a disadvantage. And Liddy is sitting there, and Matthews is shuffling the papers. What about this document? And so Matthews has got all these documents. Matthews doesn't have the documents. No. He doesn't have the original birth certificate. He says he does. What he's got is the
Liddy should have just assumed that, though, Jerry, and done a better job. If he's going to have people on the show to debate this, why is it Liddy, of course, who has quite a checkered past
well, they haven't
in his own right?
invited me, Jack. I don't think they want me there because I would just simply say, as I have tonight, look, I'm not a psychic. I'm not saying that President Obama was born in Kenya or anywhere else. I'm just wanting to know the truth.
Yeah, and I still want to see the plane that hit the Pentagon, but then
so
again...
You're not predicated on arguing that we know President Obama is ineligible. We're asking the question and wanting to see the evidence, which presuming that President Obama, when we see the evidence, he'll be telling the truth. I just want to see the proof.
Jerry, speaking of ideological battles, I would be remiss if I didn't ask you about the Alliance for Democracy in Iran and some of the groups you support to spread democracy to Iran. And I'd like to understand this a little bit better. I know that they are somewhat tied into the American Enterprise Institute, the National Endowment for Democracy, correct?
Well, I have not been supporting any of the individual organizations. In 2005...
You were a spokesperson to the sister organization of this,
no, in
Iran Liberation.
I created my own organization, which was the Iran Freedom Fund. That was the only one I was a spokesperson for, and that's all closed down. I've never been to any of the other rallies. I've never been a spokesperson for any of the other organizations. I don't endorse or support any of the other organizations. I never have.
Do you endorse the Hudson Institute?
No.
Well, that's what your detractors, I guess, say here.
Well, I mean, they say all kinds of things, but it's just not the truth. I represent only myself.
So you're not working. You're not working with nefarious sources to destabilize Iran.
No.
Not that that's a bad thing.
I said from the beginning that I think that peaceful change from within Iran is a better solution than going to war with Iran. But I've said from the beginning that that's something that the Iranian expatriates and the freedom fighters within Iran need to take on themselves. When I shut down the Iran Freedom Foundation, I quit working with any of the groups in the Iranian freedom movement. I don't endorse them. I don't work with them. I'm not a spokesperson for any of them.
And no connection to the Jewish Institute for National Security Affairs?
No, I don't even know who they are.
See, I wanted to get this out in the open, Jerry, because you've been a great commentator on this show for years. We got your back on the Swift boat thing, and because I believe what you were writing was, basically the truth. Again, I trust you to a certain degree here, but I investigate these things for myself, and I thought you guys should have been applauded for that. And there's this itchy little thorn here of your work in Iran. If you want to talk about that a little bit more, I'll keep you for a second or two on the other break if you can.
Because I've got a book coming out in Iran.
Okay. Stay with us. Jerry Corsi, WorldNet Daily, and many other resources. Stay tuned. Deadline Live.